Duyagwich Akara, and welcome back to the Morrigan Academy podcast, where we explore the myths, magic and mysteries of Ireland's great battle goddess. Today we're talking about a question that I get asked a lot, and it's usually asked with some hesitation or even guilt, certainly trepidation, and that question is, can I work with the Morrigan if I'm not Irish? There's often a fear that if you weren't born on the island or don't have a direct line of Irish ancestry, that you're somehow not allowed to connect with her, or worse, that doing so might be harmful, disrespectful or appropriative. So let's talk about it properly, because the answer isn't, unfortunately, a simple yes or no. It's more about how you approach this goddess and why. So the first thing I'll say is, the Morrigan is not a museum exhibit. She's not enshrined in amber like a dinosaur. She's not locked away behind a glass case, available only to those with an Irish passport. She is a living force, an entity, an autonomous being. And like any sovereignty goddess worth her name, she chooses for herself who she engages with. And that includes people from all walks of life, all over the world. But, and this is important, really important, she is part of a specific culture, a specific tradition, with roots in early Irish language, land, law and lore. So when someone from outside that culture wants to build a relationship with her, the key is respect, is trying to access this right relationship. It's not entitlement, it's not aesthetic, it's not invention. And this means learning about where she comes from before you start adding her to your altar or calling her into your workings or expecting anything from her. So I often tell people that it's not about being Irish, it's about being in right relationship with Irish culture. It's about going to source so that you are not getting some kind of photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of misunderstanding and loss of context and all the rest of it from people who are outside that culture trying to teach you about our own culture here in Ireland. So if you're asking this question and you're genuinely concerned about being respectful, that's already a very good sign. You're like half the way there. It means that you're approaching with humility, with curiosity, and with the kind of care and respect that she expects. Now, the next step is learning. So you will want to read the myths. Well, maybe you won't want to, but I would suggest that you read the myths, the mythology, study our culture, understand the history of colonialism in Ireland and how that's shaped the preservation and the loss of our language and lore, and also why it might make Irish people a little bit prickly when other people try and claim our culture and our heritage as their own when they haven't got actual direct experience of it. Because there is a lot of colonial trauma still here. We are not post-colonial because, as my friend Pat Booker says, we still have a whole section of our island which is colonised. I know more people than Pat say it, but Pat was the first one that really kind of pointed it out to me when I started my decolonisation work, my own decolonisation work a couple of years ago. Well, I maybe was a little bit into it at that point, in fairness, but I was talking about Ireland being post-colonial and doing what many of us here in the south of Ireland continually do, which is completely forget about the north of Ireland and the people up there and their currently colonised struggles. So we will talk about the history of colonialism in Ireland to understand context and culture and understand more about the Irish people who are what group of people the Morrigan is mostly in a symbiotic relationship with, really. But also, here's the thing, the Morrigan is tied to place as well. She is rooted in rivers and battlefields and ancient sovereign sites like Rathcroghan or Cruachan, and her presence is part of a landscape that has been lived in and fought over for thousands of years. So when you honour her, you are also honouring that land, that language, those people, those ancestors, whether they're your own direct ancestors or not, and that long, messy, beautiful story of Irish resilience and rebellion, really. So, battle goddess she is, rebel goddess she also is. Now, does that mean that you have to speak fluent Gaeilge or move to Ireland to connect with her? No, of course not. But it does mean not stripping her from her context and turning her into a generic feckin' dark goddess archetype. It means not slotting her into systems that she never came from, or using her name to sell something trendy or dramatic. And it definitely means not brushing off Irish voices or dismissing native perspectives. And unfortunately, that is something that has happened to me personally many, many times from people that you really would expect better from, who claim to be doing decolonisation work until it directly affects them. And then they tone police Irish people with statements like, "I've always been good to you people." Yes. So if you're engaging with the Morrigan through study, action and respectful practice, then you are on the right path, my friend. Support Irish teachers. Now, I'm not just saying me, but culture, Irish organisations, Irish activism, Irish, just anything that you can connect into will help you to get into right relationship. Irish journalism. I do recommend thejournal.ie as a newspaper or news source, definitely, that is giving a very fair perspective on what's actually happening in Ireland at the moment. They have many different accounts online that you can follow, and I highly recommend them. And also learn about our sovereignty traditions, and that includes right up to present day politics, government, all of that, exactly what's happening with the current landlord government, while the people really need a socialist government. So where did this government come from? We have Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, who are Gau Flaha as far as I'm concerned. They are representations of the sovereign's lie. And I don't know if any of our politicians currently are Fair Flaha, which is the sovereign's truth. Perhaps People Before Profit, perhaps the Social Democrats or the Socialist Party. Maybe they would surprise me, but certainly nobody else, I think, is on the agenda for that. And really, until they come into leadership and power, we don't know what they're going to be like. They could flip-flop like the Green Party have done, for example. But anyway, sovereignty traditions include modern politics just as much as historical politics, revolution, and our fight for independence, and then on back into the ancient Gaelic sovereignty traditions that were part of leadership. Then you'll want to understand the ethics behind what you're doing and make sure that your work isn't extractive. So you really don't want to be taking anything without giving anything back. So big part of right relationship is making sure that it's a two-way street, that you don't show up with your hands empty. That is part of our hospitality tradition, very much so here in Ireland. And you really want to make sure that that give and take starts with you giving. And again, this is where we're supporting Irish creators, Irish activists, Irish teachers, Irish language sources that are based here in Ireland, all of that, right? Because this isn't about gatekeeping, it's about, and I said gatekeeping there, just in case anybody misheard, but it is about guardianship. And there's a difference between saying you're not allowed in and saying if you're coming in, come through the front door, don't be smashing a window and grabbing whatever looks cool. Because that's really what's been happening historically here, especially with neo-paganism, this Celtic cash cow that everybody has been jumping on the bandwagon of since the 80s and 90s, Celtic shamanism, Celtic this, Celtic that. Again, slap the Morrigan's name on something and it looks cool and dramatic and witchy, and there we go, it's going to sell well. So, if the Morrigan is calling you, please don't let fear stop you, but don't ignore the responsibility that comes with answering that call. She will push you to learn, to act, to grow, to decolonise, certainly. And that journey really starts with honesty. You have to be honest with yourself, before you can really approach any other culture, you have to be uncomfortable in some ways with your own, again, decolonization process, because there isn't really anybody in Western society today who doesn't have decolonization work to do. That includes me, that includes you, certainly. So this journey, as I said, starts with honesty. And if you're not Irish, but you are willing to do the work to honour the culture as you honour the goddess, then yes, you can work with the Morrigan. And if you're not willing to do that, if you feel entitled to it, if you feel that you are owed something or that you have a right to something, and who the feck is Lora O'Brien to tell me that I need to do hard work when I can just find some American group online and they're going to initiate me in a really cool dramatic ceremony and I'm going to be a priest of the Morrigan then, right? You could do that, but honestly, she's not going to be looking at you. She's not going to be. It's just so far from the Irish people that she grew with side by side. Our own nature is communal, not individualistic. So if you're coming with a very individualistic attitude, nature, expectation, me, what do I get? You have to do this for me, you have to work for me. I'm really cool because I follow this dark witchy goddess. All of that, if you're in that situation or you're in that position and that's what you're expressing, then she's not going to be interested in you. She's really not. And there's a lot of groups and individuals who are working in the States and really a lot of different places in the world, to be honest, but especially in America. And she doesn't seem to have any interest in them, particularly because, again, they're not in a position themselves. They haven't been honest with themselves, they haven't been honest with each other, and they certainly haven't been honest with the people who they are purporting to teach. And they're at nothing really, you know, it's all Morrigan cosplay really. So she won't be interested, she won't be calling, but absolutely, if you are showing up and doing the work, that is how you come to the attention of the Morrigan wherever you are in the world. So if this episode has helped you understand that relationship a little bit more clearly, I'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast, send it to a friend. You can find the podcast and the courses based at the Morrigan Academy and join the conversation there and learn with like-minded community. There is access to a community group on the homepage and there is a link to that below. So until next time, honour the lore, respect the Morrigan and slán go fóill.